Up ahead, more tag team action as tensions between MJ Ferrantino and Too Short Popeye Scott Bell keep on heating up. A rematch between Ferrantino's new team of Lars Sullivan and Gene Snitsky against Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, the Revival.
The next match, ladies and gentlemen, a tag team match set for one fall with a 20-minute time limit. First, accompanied by MJ Ferrantino at a combined weight of 576 pounds, the team of Lars Sullivan and Gene Snitsky.
In truth, this entire brouhaha between Ferrantino and Too Short Popeye began in May when Scott Bell walked out on Lars Sullivan for being disqualified in a matchup against Tex McKenzie, and the following week on Rage, he gave Lars Sullivan his walking papers by way of a kendo stick. Told him he was fired, that his career was over, but MJ Ferrantino picked him up, dusted him off, and now it's been hot tension between he and Scott Bell ever since. You absolutely have to love the hypocrisy of Too Short Popeye. Scott Bell said to anyone who wanted Lars Sullivan, they were free to pick him up. MJ Ferrantino does it, and now Too Short Popeye's having a fit.
And to think, this business between Snitsky, Sullivan, and the Revival could be just the first skirmish in what could shape up to be the premier battle of this summer's Sweet Revenge Tour, with the up-and-coming Ferrantino challenging Scott's alleged authority, when the plain truth is, he's been stripped of like 95% of the power he once had, now brought down to just another manager, with just another stable. In my book, couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Trust me, Christy, some of us that were here are still suffering from PTSD from the time Scott Bell was RWO commissioner some 12, 13 years ago.
The scars still haven't entirely healed for some, but we can take comfort in the safeguards to prevent a repeat of those days, put in place by Chairman Colin O'Toole and Scott Bell's father, CEO Jack McLeod. Scott will never hold anything like real power around here again.
A thought that makes me smile every time I walk into this building. Hell, he ain't even in charge of the Southwest region anymore. I gave that to Gene Barry.
I have no doubt that both of these managers are going to do anything they can to help their team get the win here tonight.
Their opponents accompanied by Too Short Popeye Scott Bell at a combined weight of 440 pounds, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, the Revival.
Please feel free to boo and hiss as much as you like. Too Short Popeye Scott Bell, Scott Dawson, and Dash Wilder, the Revival. And the Revival, part of Bell Unlimited, a stable that, well, it is a far cry from the days of when Too Short was commissioner, when he commanded people like Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Warlord Santos. Now he's reduced to what they call a ragtag group. Ha!
You get what you deserve in this business, Tex, and I can't think of anyone more deserving of misery than Too Short.
The Revival could still pull off an upset tonight, as they truly do have a modicum of ring skills, even if they are punching down by associating themselves with Bell. There's some that think Dawson and Wilder are being held back from tag team gold based solely on their connection to Scott Bell. If that sounds discriminatory, trust me, it ain't by accident.
Or are you implying that me and Steve and Colin are all trying to hold the Revival back? Shame on you, Johnny. Shame, shame, shame.
And naturally, as a booking agent, everyone looks at me and says the same thing. Why, I have no idea what you're talking about. Get a look at the puppy dog eyes on Myron, as if to say, oh, feigning such innocence, oh my goodness, that is rich.
Yeah, Myron's a card, all right. But he does have a point. Looks like Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder, if they ever want anything like a tag team title shot, they are going to have to earn it, and earn it big.
And it would take the wildest chain of events to allow that to even happen. Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder nonetheless looking very much ready for this matchup against Gene Snitsky and Lars Sullivan, but they are definitely outsized, outweighed, outgunned, and outpowered.
And what do you do when you're in that situation? You have your manager cheat for you. Wait and see.
I would not be real surprised if that didn't happen. Gene Snitsky and Dash Wilder going to start this tag team match out as Willie Johnson sounds the bell. The men come center ring. Snitsky goes behind on Dash Wilder. Has him up, takes him down to the canvas, right into a headlock right away. Hard shot right to the head of Dash Wilder. Snitsky rounded up by Wilder, a snap suplex from Dash. Dash Wilder, oh man, countered by Snitsky with an arm drag. A kick. A counter from Snitsky. A counter from Dash Wilder that takes Snitsky down to the canvas. And look at this, Dash Wilder going to work on the legs of Gene Snitsky. A possible submission here, but it is way too early in the game for that to even hope to work. Gene Snitsky rolls him up into a small package. Look at this one. Oh, man. Well, this one's going to be a ride and a half, I can tell right now. Gene Snitsky rounds up Dash Wilder, whips him to his team's corner. Dash counters and escapes the corner. Snitsky counters. Dash counters. Oh, nice uppercut from Dash Wilder. A nice arm drag from Snitsky. Another counter from Dash. He's fast tonight. Snitsky counters with an elbow and a jumping neckbreaker that takes Dash Wilder down to the canvas. Snitsky putting the boots to Dash Wilder while he's down. Let's see what we got going on here. A stomp puller from Snitsky. Oh, man. Dash Wilder counters and finds his way out. Snitsky with an elbow takes him right back down again. Snitsky countered by Dash Wilder. Out onto the apron. Dash beating it out of town. Here comes Scott Dawson. Snitsky and Scott Dawson on the outside. Snitsky driven into the Spanish announce table. Scott Dawson liked it so much he's going to do it again. Gene Snitsky quickly counters with a hard left. Dash Wilder counters with a kick to the midsection. Snitsky counters with a slap to the face. Whoa. Jawbreaker from Dawson. A hard right counter from Snitsky. Another counter from Scott Dawson. Whoa, man. Scott Dawson with a kick and a DDT. Out there on the floor for Gene Snitsky as the referee continues to count. Scott Dawson with Snitsky by the trunks. He's got him up. Crashing brainbuster. Oh, man. Snitsky with a chop. Countered by Scott Dawson. A clothesline takes Snitsky down again. Oh, this one's going to be intense no matter who wins. Scott Dawson with a series of jabs and a shot to Snitsky. A whole bunch of jabs and punches roll Snitsky back inside the ring. But Snitsky with a quick tag to Lars Sullivan. Scott Dawson taken down with a clothesline. Followed up with another one. Lars Sullivan with a throat chop to Scott Dawson that stuns him. And a headbutt that takes him all the way down to the canvas. Followed up with a stomp to the back. Lars Sullivan being distracted by Too Short. I knew this was going to happen sooner or later. Scott Dawson taking advantage of the distraction. Inverted DDT to Lars Sullivan. And Scott Dawson gets caught up by Lars Sullivan. Whipped to the ropes and quickly escapes the corner. Lars Sullivan gathered up, being escorted to the Revival's corner, but a series of elbows to the midsection politely declines the invitation. Scott Dawson counters hard. Lars Sullivan counters harder with a headbutt. Has him up, drops him down like a bad habit, follows it up with a stomp to the face. Scott Dawson losing that argument quick as Lars Sullivan starts laying in driving knees into the head of Scott Dawson over and over and over again. Oh, that's going to hurt. Lars Sullivan dragging Scott Dawson towards his team's corner. He steps out. In comes Gene Snitsky. Oh, man, Scott Dawson catches a knee right to the head. And what in the hell we got going on here? Look at this. MJ Ferrantino decides he's going to get in on the act. And there's going to be a triple powerbomb for Scott Dawson. An unpleasant ride, and boom, there it is. Oh, man, he is busted open, bleeding. And oh, well, look at this. Scott Bell with a distraction to the referee. Probably didn't even see that triple powerbomb happen. Otherwise, Ferrantino would be out of there. Scott Dawson with a dragon screw. on Gene Snitsky. Dawson gathers him up again, but Snitsky counters with a shoulder tackle, takes him down. Scott Bell introduces a chair into the ring. Dawson shoves Snitsky away, and he crashes right onto that steel chair. Referee needs to get that thing the hell out of there. A back body drop to Scott Dawson. Would have served him right if it had been on that damn chair. Snitsky slams him face first into the canvas, and look at this pin right here. 1, 2, well now, would have been nice, but wasn't in the cards. Snitsky slowly making his way back to his corner, tags in Lars Sullivan. Scott Dawson is laid out. Willie Johnson finally getting rid of that damn chair. Scott Dawson tries for the chop block. Lars Sullivan just a step too quick. Dawson counters with an elbow. Takes Lars Sullivan down. And I'm betting he's busted open, bleeding, no doubt feeling a little bit fatigued at the moment. Dawson rounds up Lars Sullivan, whips him to the Revival's corner. And here comes Dash Wilder on the tag. Here's the double team. Look at this. Oh, man. Drives both knees into the midsection of Lars Sullivan and immediately covers. But Gene Snitsky right there to prevent it from even becoming one. Scott Dawson with a DDT on Snitsky. Both members of the team laid out as Dash Wilder rounds up the legal man, Lars Sullivan. But Sullivan takes him down with a clothesline. Gene Snitsky still laid out as Sullivan rounds up Dash Wilder. One arm slams him. Scott Dawson trying to get involved, but no good. Here's a cover. Oh, man, Scott Bell interceding on behalf of his team. Snitsky leg sweeps Scott Dawson out of the way. Lars Sullivan looking supremely confident. No doubt MJ Ferrantino feeling supremely confident at the moment. Hard shot to Scott Dawson. Out he goes. Dash Wilder moves in on Lars Sullivan. Tags him with a hard right. Rounds him up. Slams him down hard. Dash Wilder follows it up with a stomp. Begins to drag Lars Sullivan towards center. Turns his head. Follows it up with a stomp to the side of the head. Sullivan back inside the ring. Rounds up Dash Wilder. Crashes with a backbreaker. Sullivan countered by Dash. There's a nice uppercut. A forearm. Another. Lars Sullivan up against the ropes and now down on one knee at the hands of Dash Wilder. Wilder with another uppercut. And now into a blatant choke on Lars Sullivan. It's about the only way he can ever get any real advantage. Sullivan back inside. Gets a hold of Dash and pitches him halfway across the ring towards the far corner. Dragging Dash Wilder towards his team's corner. Dash Wilder quickly steps out, quickly steps back in. Gets a hold of Lars Sullivan. Taking him towards the Revival's corner. Changes his mind. There's a snapmare and a kick to the back to Lars Sullivan. Dash Wilder starting to line it up here. Follows it up with a stomp. Sullivan rolls out of the ring. Rolls back in. Gets a hold of Dash. Whips him to his team's corner. Here comes Gene Snitsky. Hard shot to the midsection from Snitsky. Dash Wilder counters with an elbow. Snitsky counters with a hard right. Kick to the midsection from Snitsky. He's got a hold of Dash. He's got him up and just lets him fall. Whoa! Here's a cover. Whoa! Look! Whoa! Too short. Pulling out the referee, Willie Johnson, having words with Too Short, and I guarantee you he is going to be out of here. Willie Johnson does not play these games. Scott Bell begging for a second chance here, but it's no good. Willie Johnson said it's final. He gets the hell out. Yeah, Scott Dawson clothesline Sullivan. Oh, Sullivan slams him down. Lars Sullivan making his way to the top turnbuckle as Scott Bell beats it to the back. Diving headbutt to Scott Dawson. Lars Sullivan countered by Scott Dawson. Dawson running DDT on Lars Sullivan. And down he goes. Scott Dawson dragging Lars Sullivan towards the center of the ring. Scott Dawson continues dragging Lars Sullivan. Goes for a cup. I see what he's doing. Trying for the illegal pin. Using his feet on the ropes. That did not work out very well for Scott Dawson. Dawson catches a knee to the face from Lars Sullivan. Sullivan rounds him up. Has him up big time. One arm slam from Lars Sullivan. Here's the cover with a hook of the leg. 1, 2. Reunited, it's Snitsky going off on Dash Wilder 2. Snitsky and Sullivan defeat the Revival by pinfall.
The time, precisely 10 minutes. Your winners, Sullivan and Snitsky.
Lars Sullivan and Gene Snitsky laying absolute waste to the Revival, much to the delight of Snitsky, Sullivan, and their manager MJ Ferrantino, and indeed to the delight of the fans here in the Big D tonight.
The match has been set for 20 minutes, but Sullivan and Snitsky wrapping this one up in just half the time, and successfully keeping the momentum on their side for most of the match, never letting the Revival get too much of an upper hand. And how about Sullivan being the one to pick up the pinfall over former stablemate Scott Dawson? Hey, I just loves me some poetic justice. I bet Scott regrets calling Lars stupid now.
With Sullivan being the guy to pick up both wins in both matches against the Revival. Too Short's the only one around here, looking stupid, and it's proven again. MJ Ferrantino has got something going on with success lately. A solid win for Sullivan and Snitsky. What a pair these two are gonna make.
That is true, folks. More Texas Thunder right after the break. We'll be right back.